Well, death is a natural part. Well, death is a natural part of the cycle of life. It's a process. It's that we all must go through, whether we like it or not, just like a caterpillar that eats and crawls, not knowing what's ahead for him in life. We too move forward, not fully aware of what lies ahead for us. We live our lives and often unaware of the approaching end, but always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the very moment to strike. Life is also a process, a journey that we all must take. In this journey, it starts with this open faces, basking in the glory of the Lord. And through obedience, we transform gradually into the same image, moving from glory to glory, guided by the Spirit of the Lord. We learn, we grow, we evolve, we turn into these persons that we was actually meant to be. This journey of life is really a difficult one. We must pass through this narrow gate and enter into this broad field of life, like a city built on this broad field and full of good things. The entrance is narrow and set in a dangerous place. One path so small that only one person can go through at a time. Stand between the fire on the right and deep water on the left. If we do not pass through this danger that's set before us, we can never receive the inheritance that was actually meant for us. So the entrance of this world is narrow, and it's full of sorrow and travail and perils and pain. But the elder world, the entrance were wide and sure, bringing forth mortal fruit. But in this process, we're not alone on this journey. We have the Lord guiding us every step of the way, offering His love, His protection, His guidance, and we must trust in Him and have faith that He will lead us to the ultimate destination. In the end, we must choose between life and death and blessings and cursings. The power to choose is actually in our hands. We must choose life that we may live in peace in the world to come that will be forever. We must strive to enter through the narrow gate and pass through the dangers that is actually set before us and receive the inheritance then that is actually meant for us. So let us not forget the life that we seek, and the life is a process, and we are constantly evolving. We are transformed from one stage to another, moving from glory to glory. And then in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, and the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, we shall be changed in the ultimate transformation in the final stage of our journey. We are entered into the fullness of our inheritance and bask in the glory of the Lord forever.
My heart and soul were never meant to own what you cared out for. My heart and soul were never meant to own what you cared out for, what you cared out for. We die alone, we'll all die young. What you cared out for, what you cared out from. Snow glistening on the ledge, whiskey on the bed. Shake it out and light a cigarette. I'll miss me when you wish you wanna ride. Shake me all out if I'm wrong for you, and shake it all out when I'm gone. For you. Is the devil so bad if he cries in his sleep while the earth turns and his kids learn to say forget you? They don't love you. Does the devil get scared if she dies in her dreams where the earth burns? She cries 'cause she's nothing like you. She like you. What do you want from a devil like me? Devil like me. See, the devil don't mean to be well. He just regrettably forgets to exceed expectation. Holes riddle in your head, little bit of lead. Shake it out and line a silhouette. Miss me when you wish you weren't kind of glad. Shake me all out when you're done. For you, and shake it all out when I'm gone. For you. Is the devil so bad if he cries in his sleep while the earth turns and his kids learn to say forget you? They don't love you. Does the devil get scared if she dies in her dreams where the earth burns? She cries 'cause she's nothing like you.
It's a little bit crazy. You're suddenly blurry now. I wonder if anything was real. All our history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? That you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
feel sorry. We'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. And I'm glad that everyone is able to make it this morning, because we're going to be going through an extremely important teaching today. Before we get into this, we do have a couple of announcements that I do want to make before we get started. One, we will be over at King James Bible University. We will be over there, and we're going to be going through Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 3. So that one is another important one that we need to make sure if you can attend it. Make sure you're able to be there, because that is a good teaching that's going to be going on. And also, we want to make sure that if anyone that is part of the who was planning on coming to the baptism, we have an immediate announcement coming on after this. So you'll see the link down below in the description to where you can come over to the Zoom area to where we can do the announcements there. But the main thing is we want to look at something. We're looking at something extremely important. And I want to make sure we clearly understand a couple of things. One, we need to clearly understand, and actually one person I've been conversing with, and they let me know to which they had learned through the time that they was here. And I want to pay particularly attention to what I'm getting ready to share with you. What I always share with people and what I always told people, and I say this all the time, we need to watch how people move around. You pay attention to it, because what that does, that tells you everything you need to know. Because the same thing is where people get dismayed at the signs of heaven, but we don't pay too much attention to that. All we got to do is look, and we know that. But what you want to do is pay more close attention to the signs of a body, the signs of dirt, the signs of physical moving around dirt, because it tells you a lot of things. And we have here is Michael Jackson. Many people I know, they look at him in a certain way. And we're looking at this mastered the power of language. Most people don't understand what that means, but just like the moderators tell you, make sure you have a Bible, make sure you have a pencil, make sure you have some paper to take notes. Because today we're going to do more of a learning situation than anything else. A lot of it is spiritual, but a lot of it is an important learning situation, and it's going to show you how to do something. It's going to show you how to pay attention, because if not, you will get got. I know most people don't. I ain't never heard it. Well, I'm going to tell you, we used to say it a lot when we was younger. You might get got, because here we looking at this man, and we want to know something. Did Michael Jackson eat meaning learn. So did he eat? Did he learn the doctrine of Satan? Did he? And was it to him good for food? These are things we got to know. Because what we have to remember is a couple of things. Or was he just one lost in the wilderness? These are things that if Satan knows what your greatest and deepest desires are of lust, in many cases, he can stop people from following the paths of the shepherd of the Lord. And this will lead you off the path. And Christ leads us out of the wilderness to the promised land. But did he, or I want you to really kind of remove Michael, but we're going to be dealing with him 99% of the time, but I want you to put yourself there because I want you to understand, did you do this also? Let's look at something. Let's look at something. We're going to start over here at Genesis chapter 3, but we're going to look at verse 1. And we're going to start right there. And sit here. I have a new highlighter. Hopefully this one works out pretty good. And it's right here. It says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Spirit of God had made. And he said unto the woman, which he's speaking to your spirit, he said, yea, have God said, ye shall not eat of every tree in the garden? He's asking the question. This is the question. So you should not learn of every tree that is in this garden as you going through this garden of wilderness? You shouldn't learn of this tree? You don't want to learn of me? Keep that in mind. 2, it gets on more. It says, and the woman said, so now we also speak back. The woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the tree in the garden, but however, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, which is amongst the garden, God has said, ye shall not eat of it. We shouldn't learn of it, neither shall we touch it, lest we die. I'm telling you, just pay really close attention to this serpent. Pay close attention to the person, because it's going to be ready to get real serious, and we're going to start finding out some things. In verse 4, it says, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye should not surely die. So you're not going to die if you learn what I know, because he's going to tell you something right here. It says, for God do know it, that the day you eat thereof, then your eyes should be open, and ye should be as gods, knowing good and evil. We have 2 issues here, and I just want to bring up one real quick. We have a lot of men out there that call themselves gods, and people who walk around calling themselves gods, you need to watch them, because when you're talking to people like them, they have this God complex because they're not God. But Satan is telling you here, you're going to be as gods. It's right up front. Once your understanding is open, once he can open up that, how people talk about open up that third eye, people like that you need to separate from. You need to separate from them, because this is where your problems become. They're going to tell you things that you shouldn't get into, and they try to tell you this, how you get this understanding that can't nobody else get besides you come here. So we're looking at that. But he's offering them something, and that's what we have to look for, because we got to remember something. In Luke chapter 4, we're looking at verse 7, he says, providing, therefore thou wilt worship me, all shall be thine. So for this understanding that he's going to give them, you have to worship him. Because he says one more thing, we're going to go one up. We're going to go one up. And he says, and the devil said, so we know the serpent is the devil. He says, unto him, all this power will I give to thee. So all this power, all this understanding, I'm going to give to you. I give it to you. In the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me. So he's telling you right up front, it's his. And to whomsoever I give it. So he can give it to you. But you have to do something. You have to worship him. You have to worship him. And you got to go off this path. You can't follow the path of Christ. You have to follow the path of Satan. And this is where we got to start understanding a few things. In 2nd Esdras, we're going to look at chapter 7, but we're going to pick it up at verse 7, and we're going to see here. And once we go off the path, it happens. It says, the entrance thereof is narrow and set in a dangerous place to fall, like as comparing as if there were fire, meaning desire, on the right hand and deep water on the left. That's what goes on. And the main thing is he only want to get you a certain way. And it says, in one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one can go through at once. Because this is how he's going to turn you. So if you have a group, he's going to separate you. Understanding wisdom is in its importance. In our lives, we have to also look at one more, which we'll see in Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 24 and verse 8. He tells you this, and why we have to go this way. It says, so the creator of all things gave me a commandment, that he made me cause my tabernacle to rest, and said, let thy dwelling be in Jacob, and thy inheritance in Israel. So we have to follow the voice. This is emphasizing something for us. Wisdom shall praise herself in the glory of it, in the midst of the people. Emphasizing the benefits of wisdom and following God's commandments warns us of dangers, and ignoring wisdom we can succumb to folly. So as we see this with Sirach chapter 24 verse 8, the same part in this chapter, you can see the parable, which in the parable we see, which is wisdom, is a narrow path that leads us to salvation, because we have fire on the right hand and deep water on the left. The left represents the temptation and the many knowledges that's mixed with good and bad. Ends up in pitfalls, and we can encounter on journeys that's towards righteousness using deep water, which is going to come into problem. So we got this interest of wisdom, described as a narrow path and dangers, emphasizing the difficulties, the challenges that can seek in living in this righteous life. Fire on the right hand is a symbol, and I want to make sure you write it down, as a symbol of dangerous places. Dangerous places. We want to understand this. So we got fire on one side, deep water on the left. But that fire is showing the symbols of passion, desires, which can lead people astray from the path of righteousness, while deep water on the left represents the danger of obstacles and knowledge that offers you from one will face the path of righteousness. So between them both, if we have this narrow road, virtue and righteousness, requires us to be steadfast and committed to God's will, and the willingness to resist the whole distractions, because this is what they are, distractions and temptation of this world. This the world, the very world you're in. Only one people and only one person will pass through at a time, emphasizing the personal nature and journey towards salvation, that individual responsibility that each person will follow the right path. But we got to remember one thing. This underscores the challenges and difficulties that we're going to face on this path of righteousness. So you got to emphasize the importance of us seeking wisdom, living according to God's will. So this is a reminder that this journey towards salvation is not going to be easy. I want to make sure we clearly understand that. It's not going to be easy whatsoever. In fact, let's look at something. I want to take you somewhere. We're going to see this in its fullness. In 2nd Esdras, we're going to go over here, but I want to keep that one over there for a minute because we're going to the same location, but I want to take you to verse 9. I want to take you to verse 9 for a reason. We're going to go down over here. So even though it's over there, but it says, if this city were given unto a man for an inheritance, he never shall pass the danger set before it. How shall he receive this inheritance? How should he set it? How should he receive this? And I'm going to read this down because I want you to pay attention to something on what I'm going to tell you in 1 second. And it's telling us this. It says, and he said, it is so, Lord. It is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even so also is Israel's portion. Israel's portion is set there. But Israel has to go through this dangerous place. The reason I want you to pay attention to that, you can actually see that. I wish I had it. I did have one, but we'll worry about that later. If you ever see sea turtles, when they hatch, they going across the sand, they trying to get to the ocean. So they know between the ocean and where their security is all kinds of dangers that's there. They have birds, crabs, and other animals that's out there that actually look to get these turtles as they trying to make their way to this ocean. Some of them don't quite make it as they dash out. This is what happens with us because the focus is to get from one point to the next, and that's our focus. And it's difficult. So is Israel's portion. It's on that other side. So we have to get there. So this metaphor we have to look at where Israel is faced with this journey, which we have to fulfill this destiny and receiving the promise of our inheritance. So the interest of this world is narrow, and this path that we're on, it's not easy. It requires us to work hard, to persevere, to keep our strong faith in difficulties as described. Is going to be full of perils, very painful, which emphasize the magnitude of the challenges of what we will face. Overall, this difficulty and challenges, the circumstances, we as a people, we are faced with this journey towards fulfilling the destiny, which receiving the promise of inheritance. So this metaphor, as I even just told you about the turtles, illustrate the conditional nature that we're faced with and the importance of overcoming obstacles and the challenges ahead that lie for us. So this fire on the right hand is often seen as a symbol, what we said before. This fire's desires and passion that we see that can lead people astray from that path of righteousness, which refers to the various temptations and distractions that a person will be led away from this type of virtuous life, such as greed and lust and selfishness. On the other hand, you have deep water, which represent the dangers and pitfalls which you can encounter on the journey towards righteousness, which can include the doubt, the fear, the confusion, which people can lose their way or become discouraged. I want you to pay attention to really what I'm saying here. Because for this case, we have Michael Jackson chasing a passion, a desire that will change everything, but the world offered it. I want to tell you a couple of things because this is where you really need to start really jotting down and taking notes, because Michael Jackson was one of the most successful and innovative musicians of all time. Hands down, you can go anywhere, it's no argument. You'll never find an argument there, ever. His music provides insights into his vision. Most people don't even know this. In the artistic process, Michael Jackson's life and career, these include like films like This Is It, and he had a Moonwalker, as well as documentaries like Michael Jackson's Story, The Michael Jackson, The Life of an Icon. But he's leaving Neverland. These we need to make sure, because all these are going to come into play. Give you valuable insight on his personality. And who did he listen to? And how can we learn from it? Who did he listen to, and how can we learn from it? Michael was faced with many challenges and controversy throughout his life, including the accusation of child abuse. He had financial difficulties, health problems. While all these issues complex and controversial, there is lessons to be learned from looking at it from outside, seeing the mistakes and missteps, by understanding the choices made on his journey and the consequences that follow behind diving into deep water and playing with fire. People seek to emulate Michael Jackson despite the public challenges. People willing to dance with the devil. The same as we see here, where we started right there, and we're going to go up to verse 5. And same thing which many of us look at. In verse 5, it says, and the devil taking him up on a high mountain showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment's time. In a moment's time. Kingdoms is government providences of this world. The power to carry with the glory with it. The vision that he's seen. And the power that he had with his brothers. And you see how it kept going down. It says, and the devil said unto him, all this power I will give thee. He's telling you right up front. For that is delivered unto me, and whomsoever I give it. So we're looking at this with his brothers. In fact, we're going to look at something. I want to show you this and make sure we all on the same page. In Proverbs chapter 16, we're going to look at verse 18. Verse 18. Pride goeth before destruction, including an haughty spirit in the presence a fall. You see how this is saying this, because I'm reading it for what it is. So pride goeth before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. This should remind us to avoid pride, arrogance. People carry, which leads us to our downfall. Michael Jackson controversy and legal troubles can seem cautionary tale, but the dangers is letting us get to pride. And by the way, his wealth and his fame, Michael Jackson music message focused on love. See, we got to pay attention to what he did. He focused on love, compassion, empathy. Or I want to make sure we make a challenge there. Or was it focused to portray him as a god? I'm telling you, did he use that to portray a god? See, you had people wanting to be God and often referred to seeking a divine ambition. Make sure you write this down, because all this is going to come into play. All of it. Promise you. This refers to an individual desire to have a godlike power, ability, a status that's often motivated by a desire for power, control, and immorality. See, godlike you. You want to live with this immorality. Michael Jackson used to sleep in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, known as a hyperbaric oxygen therapy. This chamber, he slept in it in the 80s. Reported to where he believed that this chamber can help him live longer. It can even make him immortal. You can go do the research and you'll see it there yourself. But it's important to note that this hyperbaric oxygen therapy is typically used for medical treatment in conditions with people who have like carbon monoxide poisoning and healing wounds. These things we have to see. So there's no scientific evidence that suggests sleeping in this chamber will extend his life. So it's worth nothing that Michael was known for being eccentric then. His behavior, his lifestyle, his choices, how he slept. But Michael still had a divine ambition. He had a divine ambition, and his desire was to be a god, to have godlike powers, or that worship or revered as this deity. We want to look at this and at this individual and when he had this hungry for power. And most people don't know what this is, but we want to make sure we understand what it is. And you can actually even go look this stuff up, and you can see what goes on. But what he's doing when you power hungry, you had this megalomaniac. It's called megalomaniac. That's what it's called. And a megalomaniac is actually, I'm gonna spell it to where you'll know what it is. And you can spell it as MEGALOMANIAC. Just making sure you understand what that means. And it's MEGALOMANIAC. Megalomaniac. The reason why I want you to make sure you even go do the study on that, it's a person who is obsessed with their own power. Their own power. This is what this is called. One who craves and craves control over others and willing to do anything to attain their goal, including using either violence or manipulation. Divine ambition takes on many forms, and the desires, and we see this physical immorality, this desire to control the minds and actions of others. It's the core, it's the form that's extreme narcissism, this self-centeredness, where an individual believes they are above the law of society and the limitations of morality. Most people don't know you have this thing they call the phoenix. Actually, I need to switch something. I want to show you this. I want to make sure you see this. Let me go here. I want to make sure you have this. And give me 1 second, because I want to make sure you can see it. Because I didn't move it, but I can make sure you have it. I can make sure you have it, but I want to make sure you see this. And give me one quick moment. Where is it? And because I do want you to see this part, because I actually do have that in where is it? I have it here. Let me make sure. No, that's not it. I have that one there, and I can push that there. Let me push over a couple of things real quick. Just give me one quick moment. I just want to push a couple of things there. I'm gonna push over 2 things. I got one, and I'm gonna get the other one, because I have the other one, and I want to make sure I have that one. Where is the video? Because I set the video up, and I don't see the video. But if not, I'm going to do it the other way. I'm going to look for a hot second more, and if not, I'm just going to show you. I think this is, no, that's not it either. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you the video. I'm going to show you the image of it, because I don't see the video. I'm trying to find the video I actually set up for it, but I don't see it. I wish I was able to show you the video, but I don't see it. Looking. Nowhere. Okay. don't see it. Dang it. And watch, as soon as I go off, it's going to pop right up. Like normal. As soon as I go off, watch, I'm going to find it. It's going to find it with no issues. So what I want to do is show you what a phoenix is. And the phoenix is in a part where most people don't know, but a phoenix is a mystical bird. It's a mystical bird. And with this mystical bird, I want to show you there was something that they showed in front of you all the time. I want to put that there, and I want to put this here. And it's a phoenix, and you'll see it's part of Marvel Comics, and now we have it here. But I want to explain this to you real quick. I have a few other pictures. I have video that I was doing on this, and I can't seem to find it now. I still kind of want to find it because it'll show more of what I was doing. And I cannot believe I cannot find it. Yeah, I cannot find it. I cannot believe this. And normally it's right there. And for some reason I cannot. This is gonna drive me crazy. This, if you ever want to see something that drives people crazy, is when you know you did something and now you can't find it. And I know I have it, but I can't find it. Okay, I'm gonna have to move on. Okay, so mainly what we're doing is this here. This here is talking about a phoenix, but a phoenix is tied to a mystical bird. In the bird, we want to understand what the bird is, because this bird supposedly, under this mystical happened, this mystical bird had died, it burst into flames, and after death, this phoenix then was reborn. In the ashes, raised, and it was alive, and it became alive even more. So this phoenix became this symbol of a rebirth, of renewal. And then with this legendary bird, this is why you'll see people with here in which she's in the phoenix. Then you got Jean Grey. All this the name, everything going to come into play, especially with Michael Jackson. Everything going to come into play. But we can see this once it bursts into flames. We can see that this metaphor, that's this cycle, this nature of life, of death and rebirth. So when we look at this legend of this phoenix, it's rooted with this, number one, it's rooted with ancient Egyptians. Keep that in mind. It's rooted with ancient Egyptians. Two, it's rooted with Greek mythology, and it's rooted with Roman mythology. So it's rooted with all those, this phoenix. And it's often associated with the sun and believed that this has magical powers. This is why we see people get into this craziness, and they get into these comics and they get into craziness. But there's religious and it has spiritual traditions, which is seen the symbol to where it had this spiritual transformation and enlightenment. So just as this phoenix can rise from ashes and be reborn, many people strive to renew themselves. So people want to strive to renew themselves through the challenges of experience. And then this is the process that they can do this renewal, to where involve letting them go in these patterns and these behaviors, to where no longer they'll be facing them. And then they seen their fears now no longer weaknesses, to where they can embrace the change and opportunity of growth. So it's actually worth nothing in the process of growing, and the transformation often challenges these people that's required in the willingness to face difficult or emotional situations, while the phoenix is the symbol of hope and renewal. So it's important to where when you approach it, humility and self-awareness, willing to face the fears and see what's going on. So which in case Michael, he didn't look at himself much as a phoenix, but he looked at part of it. So overall, the phoenix was a powerful symbol that he used. As with this here. So what we see here is people desired to be gods. So we see this here. Desired to have power and authority over others. They craved the ability to shape reality according to their own desires, and worshipped and admired by others, or they escape the limitation of their vulnerabilities of being human. So throughout history, you see many examples of people sought to attain these godlike status from these ancient mythological figures, and like Zeus and Apollos, they worshipped as gods, influence over people of the world. Many times as today, you see people as cult leaders. They do the same thing. They do the same identical thing. Establish themselves as this godlike figures having this complete authority. So what this is, the ultimate goal is to where they want to be desired as gods. Wide range of motivations, which is extremely negative. But it's important to remember that these humans, the infinite and infallible beings, but their true power and authority comes from aligning themselves one greater with the purpose of this higher power, rather than seeking to become one itself. This is where this issue comes in at. This is why this problem has. People seek to be worshipped. They seek to be desired, famous. You see it today. They crave this validation. They crave these things. I'm going to get it off of this person here. So they crave to be after these things. And is based on the sense of insecurity, emptiness, and hope to feel receiving attention in this admiration to be praised from others. So in the case that people seek fame and adoration in a way for this compensating for past traumas or feeling of this inadequacy that they didn't had. This is part of the problem. So they believe they become famous. So when people believe they can become famous and they desires that they were willing to do, and now they finally be as seen as valuable and worthy to be loved and respected. So this desire for fame and admiration is driven them. This is their driver. Now this is their platform. This is their influence to make them a serious impact on the world. And it exhibits their talents and their passion with others. So now their fame and success is a way of achieving their goal and making the difference in the world. So it's important to note that fame and success comes with their own set of challenges and pressures, like Michael Jackson. That's why we got to get into this. And it's faced with the intensity and scrutiny and criticism, which is isolation of loneliness, which comes with the public eye. And the pursuit of fame and adoration, it leads to a negative destruction behavior. This is the issue, and it's a form of self-harm. But it's also worth nothing more for performers who seek to be worshipped and adored. These same famous people and individuals seek this fame and recognition. This becomes their byproduct. His desire to be famous and his recognition and adoration is a complex and it's multifaceted, and it's a phenomenon which is driven by a variety of motivations that he did. And he did it for negative reasons. While some performers even seek to be worshipped and praised by fans as gods, then it's important to recognize the fulfillment of happiness that comes from it. This is the external validation, which can be really ultimately just unsatisfying. You have people who have this pride and arrogance, and they place themselves above God. They place themselves above God. They become this God, and they become equal, or they come to the equal of fame to God, even what they said, as the Bible even talks about. They said, because they seen and they spoke about, have you heard the fame of God of Israel and what all he did in Egypt? See, this is actually referencing back what happened in Judges. And because we know Egypt in the house of bondage, in the wilderness. You see how he's talking about in all that he did to the Amorites. Amorites is nothing but slayers and vain talkers in the wilderness. And what he did beyond Jordan to Zion, which is these people who sweeping away. The king of Heshbon, this person of reckoning. Into Og, the long-necked weeds, the king of Bashan, the stoneless plain, and what he did to Ashtaroth, the stars. This is what's going on. This is what was spoken of. So now we have this feeling of him in his heart, has ascended into heaven, and he would exalt his throne above the stars of God. This is why this gets into this. This is why you sit, and why he sits on the mount of the congregation. And he can do this thing, and he gets away with it. In fact, I want to show you this and make sure we all understanding on this. So when you see this here, this is why this is always said, because it gets a lot more serious as we go deeper into this. In Isaiah chapter 14, looking at verse 13. Looking at verse 13. For he has said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of the congregation and sit on the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So you don't want some people with him. I is not a team. I is not a group. This is why it's getting more serious as we go on down into this. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, picking it up at verse 4. So he will be like the Most High, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worship, so that he as God sitting in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So now he's God, and he's going to picture himself as God. But the problem is most people see him the same way. Most people are going to see him in the same way. In Romans chapter 1, looking at verse 22, picking it up from there, as we're going to find out something in a minute, we're going to see and professing themselves to be wise, and they became fools. To change the glory of an uncorruptible God into the image made like a corruptible man. This is what we do. This is what we have did. Because this goes on more, and we're going to get a little bit more serious. He said he was going to exalt himself above the throne, the stars of God. The Bible teaches us the dangers of pride and the importance of humility. But it warns us about pride, and it leads to destruction, and reminds us the fall of Lucifer, who desired to exalt himself above God and the fame of God, who advised and did not think to for ourselves that the high and what we recognize. God resists the proud, and he gives grace unto the humble by cultivating humility and the willingness to learn from others. But we have to avoid the pitfalls of pride and grow in wisdom and understanding. Recognize the true wisdom and grace comes from God. We should strive to be humble, modest, recognizing our ultimate source and strength of wisdom. Some achieve these God status from comic books. It happens. It happens. We try to get around, but it happens. The same thing as we've seen with this Gray. Tell you a few things about this. See, because they use the name Jean Grey, actually speaks of a God. See, because gray has a spiritual meaning. This is why they can hide the product in the pudding. Gray. See, her name is Jean Grey. You can see it on Mutants, but Jean Grey has a spiritual meaning. And it depends on the cultural context that you're using it in. So some spiritual traditions use gray that's associated with the neutrality, the balance of the midway, but considering this as a balance between light and dark, and some just see it as between black and white. Gray can symbolize the transformation of a change. You see what it is? Transitional. It's a transitional color between two extremes. Gray is more of a reminder to avoidance in each extreme, but it has a spiritual path. Ultimately, the spiritual meaning of gray is subjective, varies in different ones. But it depends on which one you see it in. Gray is associated to qualities of wisdom when you look over on God's side, maturity. But Phoenix Gray, the Phoenix. The name of the Phoenix is a heathen spiritual meaning that dates back to, which I said, the Greek mythology, even Egypt. But Greek mythology, the Phoenix is this legendary bird, as I said, 500 years before, and then funeral that happened, and it was reborn. Beyond this, we have a problem. This is why we sit there and we talk about Greek mythology, why we sit there and talk about other people who consider themselves children of God, who believe in Phoenix, entire countries. This transformation, did Michael achieve this deception of his rebirth? See, Michael Jackson, and when we're looking at the Jackson 5, were one of the most powerful groups that consisted of 5 brothers, including him. The group was formed back in 1964 in the fame with catchy pop songs. This, I want you to make sure you write them down, because we're going to check. I want you to go back and check me on this, because it was even there. Being one of the most successful groups of that era, they came out with ABC, I Want You Back. I want you back. Here's some of the lyrics from that. It says, when I had you to myself, I didn't want you around. Those pretty faces always made you stand out in a crowd. But someone picked you from the bunch. One glance was all it took. Now it's much too late for me to take a second look. Oh, baby, give me one more chance to show you that I love you. Won't you please let me back in your heart? Oh, darling, I was blind to let you go, baby. But now, since I see you in his arms, I want you back. Yes, I do know. I want you back. Oh, baby, I want you back. Yeah, I want you back. It's interesting. This becomes so interesting. I want to show you something. You look over here at Isaiah chapter 53. Take here verse 2. It says, for he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root, comparing a root out of dry ground, and have no form, no comeliness. And when we shall see him, there should be no beauty that should desire him. Why are we looking at this? And I'm going to show you why. Because this becomes even more important. The reason why this becomes more important, I want to show you something in Deuteronomy. This is your key here. In Deuteronomy chapter 32, we're going to look at verse 21. 21. They have moved me to jealousy. It's key. They moved me to jealousy, that which is not God. They provoked me to anger with their vanities. I will move them to jealousy with those who are not my people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. Because the song goes on to say, it says, trying to live without your love is one long sleepless night. Let me show you, girl, that I know wrong from right. In every street I walk on, I leave tears stained on the ground. Follow the girl I didn't even want around. Let me tell you now, oh baby, all I need is one more chance to show you that I love you. Won't you please let me back? Oh darling, I was blind to let you go. Taking on a heathen god, another famous song is Never Can Say Goodbye. Dominated the charts. Michael Jackson stood with this peculiar talent, this performer, electrifying dance moves and vocals and everything. People believed he was Peter Pan. He was this Peter Pan, this boy who would not grow up, a symbol of eternal youth. This refusal to conform to societal expectations. People didn't know Peter Pan represents the importance of holding on to a childlike wonder, innocence. I want you to understand what they're saying is. It's controversial because this innocent is an imagination. The reality is a symbol of rebellion against pressures of adulthood, including responsibility to social norms. Most people don't even know it does that. Michael Jackson's life belief was marked with similarities, including the belief that the unity of the world he created, because he created Neverland. I want you to pay attention to what's going on. He created Neverland. All this he done right before our eyes. All of it. Right before our eyes. In this Neverland, his home was a world of entertainment. It was a matrix. Neverland. It was meant to be a place of his creation of joy, innocence, and wonder where people can come together and experience the magic and belief of childhood. Michael Jackson himself saw himself being reinvented and reincarnated. He became this phoenix, this mystical bird, this spirit that was reborn from ashes. He often spoke about the importance of renewal and transformation, is what he did, both in his personal and in his life as an entertainer. Michael Jackson believed that this system of unity at Neverland was a personal philosophy and renewal of transformation with the similarity that was violent and divisive culture he built within his mind. And he used it to deceive the world. Some of the numbers I'm going to be running later, we can't say we didn't like him, because he did. Many of us did. Many people say, I never liked him, but I promise you, that's why I'm not even doing the asking, because I know most of us will tell the lie. Throughout his success, Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 paved the way, but he, as I said, he wanted a solo career. So Michael Jackson's first solo album came Off the Wall. Off the Wall. Think about that. Off the Wall. These are really peculiar name titles that he's choosing. Off the Wall marks his departure from this, what he want to call a bubblegum pop sound. It showcased he produced such Don't Stop, Till I Get Enough, Rock With You. His next album was where he transformed everything. Thriller. The transformation released back in 1982. He became one of the biggest selling albums, and that was the biggest selling album, and it solidified Michael Jackson's status to this global superstar. Promise. There they seeked, and later, you'll see what I'm speaking of. This album he produced was Beat It. What changed the world was Billie Jean. Billie Jean. We're going to find out. Most people say they never even probably had 4 or 5 of their CDs of it. Michael Jackson's solo career marked him, starring the charts, and his charts topping with the one that included Billie Jean, Thriller, Beat It, Showcase. And when you look at something, I want to show you this before we get deeper into it. We're going to go over here to Judges. I want you to see something. In Judges chapter 13, because he was not a stranger to the Bible. He was not nowhere close to a stranger. In this one here, 13:17, I want you to pay attention to something that's going to happen. But most people are going to go over. Some people hear it, some people are going to catch it. It says, and Manoah said unto the angel, this messenger, of the Spirit of God, what is thy name? What is your way? What is thy way? When he was saying, when he come to pass, that we may honor thee. Key. And the messenger said unto the Spirit of the Lord, why thou askest by name, seeing this secret? That's interesting. The reason this is so interesting, Michael controversial and challenges these allegations of child molestation and struggles with addiction. And he did this transformation, this rebirth. He continually did this. And he pushed boundaries. He pushed these boundaries that leave an a lasting impact for generations of ossifiers to come forever. Because the blueprint is there. Michael's rebirth is seen as his personal life, but most people don't know Michael Jackson and they was originally Jehovah's Witnesses. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, he experienced this tumultuous childhood. So when he gained control over his life, his person, he began to distance himself from the family and their religious belief. Michael's spiritual journey, he explored various different practices. Most people don't know, and some people do know. But he started exploring Buddhism, Hinduism, and then he famously, once he finished visiting those, he turned Neverland Ranch. That's where he built Neverland Ranch into this whimsical, and it's full of this exhibiting this eccentric and sudden ideas of sudden that's going on in his mind, relating these whims and resulting to this character, this caprice, especially this erratic behavior, unpredictable change, which turn in Neverland. Neverland is an idea, it's an imagery placed in the dream world of his heaven. Neverland was specific in the spiritual meaning. Represents the place of children never grow up, which the one Michael Jackson created. He can have this endless adventures within itself or this eternal mind thinking. Michael Jackson wanted Neverland to be seen in the public as a symbol of the world as innocent and purity of childhood. Neverland was also seen as a metaphor of a state of mind, which was his place that represents the idea that all tapped into this inner child, this joy in wonderland. But it always has these difficult circumstances. Michael Jackson rebirth remains one of the most influential and celebrated times that's impacted culture that's continued to be felt today. Most people don't even know this. His ability to constantly reinvent himself gave the boundaries and the blueprint that's serving people that's inspiring ossifiers around the world today. Most people don't even know this. For example, you have T.D. Jakes, who take the same blueprint. Most people don't even know this. He took the same blueprint and created this boundary of these worlds, and they call them mega churches. Most people don't even know this. But how did he label it? That's the catch. How did he label it? It's called T.D. Jakes Ministries. You have Creflo Dollar Ministries. You have Noel Jones Ministries. You have Clarence McClendon Ministries and many other ones where they name these ministries to where you come in there and you can enjoy what was created from within their mind. That's why it's called those ministries. Those things is created from within their mind. And this is the context for the religion for these faith-based organizations with the ministry offer these specific place and a mission within the organization serving them as gods. Why you can see why they serve and they refer to these physical locations. And these churches had these religious centers and told these ministries where you worship these services and then they offer the counseling and activities in the place, overall goals on what they support these spiritual guides' needs. That's why that happens that way. In fact, I showed this earlier. We're going to go back over here. We're going to look at something. In Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18. Proverbs 16:18. It says, "Pride goeth before destruction, and haughty spirit haughty spirit before it fall." Because the main part we want to understand is this, and seeing what's going on. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 18, verse 15. Because we got to look at the body. We got to pay attention to the body. The almighty word leaped down from heaven out of thy royal throne, comparing a fierce man of war into the midst of a man of destruction. Because that's what all land is talking about. A man of destruction. We are getting ready to destruct. It's getting ready to happen. The same you see over here, back over here with Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. How art thou fallen, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which weaketh the nations? This is highly interesting. Highly interesting. As we're moving forth on this and getting a better understanding on who he is and how he's done this. In Romans chapter 12, picking it up in verse 3. You see this. For I say, through the grace given unto me to every man that is among you, not to think of him more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly according as God hath gave every man a measure of faith. He became this pop star. Behind the lyrics of Billie Jean, we're going to get into. But before we do, I want to make sure you clearly understand some things on why he said it. Why I was telling you even earlier, he did some things right in front of you, right in front of myself. Billie Jean, which brings us to the perception of this mythological creature, but the name Billie Jean has a meaning, which you can actually go look up anywhere. And you can find it, but it has a spiritual meaning to it. And Billie is determination of strength as a protector. That's what Billie means. Jean mean God is gracious. That's something that the Greeks took for this mythological creature, and they gave this name, and then they made the meaning of it to resolute this protection in this protector from Billie. And Billie is diverged from this Germanic name. Jean is a variant. This is why I tell people Greek is crazy. Greek is plain crazy. Greek is a variant because it used a variant as the name of John. Most people don't even know this. So if it's rooted with John, they saying God is gracious based on Jean. But John name means Yahweh has been gracious. But if you change it to Jean, it's going to push it God is gracious. So Billie Jean, you see what's going on. So John name translated in many languages, and look in French, you'll see Jean going to say, in French, going to say John. Yahweh has been gracious. The traditional name that's associated with John the Baptist, the cousin of Yahushua, who baptized him in the Jordan River. But John the Baptist, known for his devotion and his prophetic message, heralded his coming Messiah, while some being meaning behind the famous story that's going on today, associated with the King of Pop. Floated around, and we see the sounds on what he did. And you see this, what he did with Moonwalk, which mentioned the aspiration for the meaning of Billie Jean. Michael Jackson, he actually said Billie Jean. Now, he originally said this. You can actually find writings on it where he said this. He said Billie Jean was not specifically based on a real person. The song was inspired, it was written by Michael Jackson's experiences. It's crazy, ain't it? It's like he's double talking. It's not based on a specific person, but it was inspired by my experiences. Interesting. Billie Jean have become the most iconic music song in history. The best-selling single album best-selling single, sold over 7 million. I had to look at my note. 7 million copies worldwide. Regarded as the most iconic and influential song in history. The song Billie Jean was named even the greatest. I was shocked to see that by BBC Radio. The listeners in 2015. The song is part of the hit that dance tracks that compiled with the radio station history and dance music program. Billie Jean topped the list out of all classic tracks like Staying Alive, the Bee Gees, and Fall in Love by Diana Summers. This song, infectious beat. Pay attention to what he's doing. This is what I'm saying. What was he doing? Because this infectious beat has these memorable lyrics, timeless. And I used to teach this in the back a lot, and I'm gonna take on some of it right now. This is what we want to see. This is what we want to understand here. and basically get the thing what we want to do and what's happening. This is why it's so important to make sure we get a clear understanding. What was Michael Jackson doing? The reason why, in the back I used to teach about sound waves and what music is recorded in. And your safe one is Hertz 432. 432. Why is it speaking of this 432? Why is it speaking about this 432 is what we really want to understand. We really want to get a better understanding on what he's talking about. The reason I say that is because Billie Jean was specifically recorded in 440. Specifically. And then they mixed it. I want to show you something. We're going to get into it. I want to show you this and get into it. In Jeremiah, we're going to look at something. Jeremiah chapter 51. 51 and verse 54. We're going to look at something. We're going to pull this up right here. 54. And it says, the sound of cry coming from Babylon. See, everybody don't go out of Babylon. A cry come from Babylon in great destruction from a land of the Chaldeans. Some people don't go from Babylon. Some people stay and they go off the path. But looking at this a little bit closer, we're going to see something. He says, because the Spirit of God has spoiled Babylon and destroyed out of her the great voice when her waves do roar like great waters. Interesting. Again. A noise their voice is uttered, because the spoiler is come unto her, even unto Babylon, and her mighty men are taken every one with their bows and broken. And the Spirit of God of recompense shall surely requite. This is interesting. The reason why, when you're looking at the frequency, 432, and this wasn't done with this. See, the reason why it's getting so important, because the frequency hertz of sound waves of 432, it heightens perception, it increases your mental clarity, and persons unlock intuitions. So it mentions the phoenix, as I mentioned earlier with the mythological bird. Hundreds of years dying, bursting in flames, and what happened. But Billie Jean was pitched. It was pitched with 440. It was pitched at 440. And it was noted for 432. The conspiracy is where the censors, evil, and their standards of 440 music. The Rockefeller's Foundation pushed this adoption of 440 in the United States as part of war and consciousness. The musical cult control suggests that tuning music to 440 turned into a military weapon. It goes deeper, suggesting even the Nazi insisted on 440 tuning the Germans because the propaganda of what was going on in that country. The useful way of mobilizing the population. 440. The instance that frequent sounds and using this believed to promote relaxation of the body, but the frequency is 432. Most people don't even think it's serious. They don't think it's a big deal. Particularly even with New Age. The idea of 432 music is based on the frequency closely related to this natural vibration of the universe for the human body, but for this same reason, it can push a positive or impact the listener. Range of benefits, unlocking heightened perception, increasing mental clarity, promoting relaxation. It's shown in 432. But it's fascinating the power of the sound of a phoenix bird. Now, people say they have the bird have a sound of it, but it's a mythological bird. It's weird, isn't it? So when you're enduring these symbols, you're looking at this transformation without reborn this thing from ashes. You got to keep this in mind. Where these dangers come from, this phoenix can be seen, this mythological, powerful reminder of what happened. Michael Jackson's desire was a weapon, was 100% a weapon. And he laid it right in front of us, but we never seen it because we was caught up. We caught up in the man. We was caught up with the man. His autobiography, Moonwalk, Michael Jackson, he expressed his desire. He said all these things right there. He expressed the desire to be the greatest entertainer of all time. He wrote this. It's in his thing. He wrote this. A sound of cry coming from Babylon is what he did. He always wanted to be, and always wanted to do music to influence people all over the world. He stated that he wanted this. I want to be the greatest entertainer that ever lived. And he said, that is my goal. That is my mission. You can go get the book. You'll see, he says this in his book. This is my goal. This is my mission. In my job on this earth. The ability to transcend boundaries of people, all races and cultures and backgrounds and arenas to hear his message. His goal throughout his career. Even seeking the things like this coexist, where they can have people from all different walks of religions, they can all join up together. It's interesting. Michael Jackson, when he wrote this, he wanted to influence these people, showing that he had power to rule. Entertainers, for example, these are individuals who use their talents to provide you normal enjoyment, amusement, audiences throughout various forms of performances, either through singing or they acting or dancing or comedy or doing magic or various fields of media, acting television. But it has a spiritual significance of entertainers. Can differ depending on the individual beliefs and viewpoint for the spiritual traditions. It's providing emotional and spiritual nourishment and promoting the importance of a message engaging in entertainers. So these entertainers, they conduit for divine inspiration and creativity. Utilizes their skill and their talent to express something that's greater than themselves. Divine spark within each individual that initiate the creativity and the ability that connect you with others deeply. But this ultimate spiritual meaning of this entertainer is shaped with the intention to impact others. The important part of the entertainers should be to show integrity and responsibility. But do they? Do they? To connect with others. Michael Jackson moonwalk, term moonwalk, used as a dance, popularized by Michael Jackson in the 80s. Through his spiritual lens, some people even found this parallel. But the example of the moonwalk, most people don't even know this. The moonwalk was a symbol of grace and fluidity of movement. But it'd be valued as a religious tradition. Most people didn't even know this. Moving backwards while appearing moving forwards. I want you to think about that. He moonwalking, it's appearing he's going forward, but he's moving backwards. It's a metaphor, introspection, reflection, where someone steps back and examines our lives and actions before moving forward. We didn't even know this was going on. Moonwalk was his signature move, and it was known for his talent and as an ossifier. He was a craftsman. He was a craftsman at what he did. So we might see moonwalk as a symbol of artistic, and people will say, well, it was just artistic, but nobody don't know what he said, what he wanted to do. He wanted to be the greatest of all time. I'm going to share some things with you, which some people might be hard to swallow. But I'm going to share with you some words from Billie Jean. I want you to pay real close attention to his words. Real close attention to his words. Billie Jean goes off like this, and this will tell you how he moves. This is going to tell you how he moves and why Billie Jean is one of the most powerful songs in this world today. Billie Jean, it says, she was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one. Will you dance on the floor and around? She said, I am the one who would dance on the floor and around. She told me her name was Billie Jean. We just found out what that. She said her name is Billie Jean. As she caused the scene, then every head turned with eyes that dreamed of being the one who danced on the floor and around. Did we catch any of this? Did any of this we catch? Hopefully you caught this. Hopefully you got that understanding. Because those are teachings within itself. Just those. Just that one simple statement. This encounter with this woman named Billie Jean, who claims that he's the one on the dance floor and around. Michael is perplexed by her statement and is intrigued by her beauty and confidence. The text invokes the sense of a mystery that's intrigued as his identity and his intention of Billie Jean are left ambiguous. Michael Jackson, you can go pull the letter, you can go pull the words up yourself. But it said, but you got to look at even that so-called Billie Jean. It's taken out of context of the song because it's interpreted a different way. And the text is controversial between two people. It's a conversation between two people. The first person described as a woman. The first one describes as a woman, a beauty woman. This is where the problem is. Most people don't even, this is where the problem is because he's telling you a story. In Revelation 17, picking it up in verse 4. Verse 4, right here. It says the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and decked in gold and precious stones and pearls, having a gold cup in her hand full of abominations, filthiness of her fornication. But that ain't all. I want to show you all of it. And we're going to go to verse 5. And upon her forehead, one second. Upon her forehead was the way written, Mystery Babylon. Excuse me. Never left confusion. Still in that world. Mystery Babylon, the great, the mother of harlots, the abominations of the earth. Interesting. It has become interesting, highly interesting. So this is why we have an issue. She's full of abominations. At the end of the video, you even see this light path. And most people I just asked that. If anybody's seen the video and at the end, they see the pathway, the streets, the sidewalk just lights as something's walking. Did everybody see that video? I didn't want to show the video, but everybody should have seen the video. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen it because it's one of the most powerful videos that's out there. But as he walks, you can no longer see him. All you see is this spirit and this just the steps. Even when he gets in the bed with her, he disappears. Right there. It's right in front of you. This woman later revealed her name as Billie Jean, Mystery Babylon. Revealed herself as this, the great, capturing the attention of everyone around her. Mentioned the very head turning, the eyes when she danced around, and implies the sense of jealousy and admiration for Billie Jean. I don't know what to say here. While it seems that many may have disconnected from taken away out of context, but portrayed this conversation between two people, the attention-grabbing qualities of this woman, whose name is Billie Jean. Her strength and her ways for God, she was offering him something. And he wanted to be the greatest entertainer. Remember, if Satan knows what your greatest desires and lust is for, he offers it to you. That's what he offers. And we looked at that at the beginning. We looked at all this at the beginning, and this is why it's so important. In Luke chapter 4, looking at verse 6. Looking at verse 6. And the devil said, let me see. And the devil said unto him, this is all this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and whomsoever I will give it. If thou therefore will worship me, all shall be thine. Interesting, isn't it? Let's hear a little bit more of these words. Because we got to remember how the song started. She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. She said, don't mind, but I do, what do you mean? I am the one who would dance on the threshing floor. I'm just telling you some spiritual ways on what it's using. I'm just doing this on the threshing floor and around. And she said, I am the one who would dance in the house, is what it's actually saying, and around. She told me her name was Strength of God, Graciousness, is what he's actually telling you. And she caused the scene, and every head turned, and understanding that the dream is being the one who would dance on the threshing floor and going around. It's what it's actually telling you spiritually. People always told me, be careful of what you do and not go around breaking young girls' hearts. For the mother always told me, be careful who you love and be careful what you do, because the lies become truth. Billie Jean is not my lover. Interesting. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Interesting again. This is going to be constantly being interesting. The statement is to be careful when the lie becomes true, because it's warning of the consequences of one action on how they can impact the perception of the truth. It suggested that if someone continues to act in the way that they do, it contradicts the truth. Eventually, the lie becomes accepted as truth. Which shows here, be careful what you do, because lies become truth. Being controversial, and because of the suggested lies that become the accepted way of truth all over the world. Some people may disagree with that statement, arguing the truth is the absolute and cannot be altered by lies. But you see, that's a lie all within itself. You see it happens every day, especially in America. Especially here. Excuse me. However, others agree with that statement. For instance, the history that has been repeated frequently become accepted as truth. Controversial in the interpretation of statements and what goes on. Most people don't even know. The White House was taken over at one time and was burned down. Most people don't even know that, because they won't tell you that. They won't share this information with you. So the second part of the statement, Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one, But the kid is talking about children, and the children is talking about fruit or the works of and followers. That's what this is getting into. And it's not my son, it's talking about a servant. It's controversial sense and subject to all people going to try to say it is, well, the understanding is different in its context, which is crazy. The lyrics let you know that Michael is denying himself to the public. He's denying involvement with Billie Jean. So why he just didn't say it openly? He's claiming that he is not the father of that child. I don't know. To show you why it was shady all the way around. The reason why. Because they will even say, the family will even tell you, well, Billie Jean just this fictional character. Really? If that's the truth, then it should be speaking about this fictional character all the way through. This is where the issue is. Let's read a little bit more of the lyrics. And we're going to see why it's an issue even in my realm. And it says, for 40 days and 40 nights. You can't make it up because it's right there in his lyric. You can hear him say it. He said, for 40 days and for 40 nights and 40 nights. The law was on her side. It was given over to the wicked. So if they say, no, this is not talking about nothing religious, okay, why is, you could have said for 90 days and 90 nights, you could have said for 41 days, for 41, you could have said anything. Why do it say for 40 days and 40 nights? Interesting. But they will tell you this is not a spiritual song. I'm telling you, it's a crack up. But it says for 40 days and 40 nights. The law was on her side. But who can stand when she is demand? When she's in demand. Who can stand? These are his lyrics. Her schemes and plans cause me to dance on the floor and around. She take my strong advice. Remember to always think twice. You tell me. You tell me. So for 40 days, 40 nights, it's clearly letting you know, speaking about the story of Noah, the temptation of, you can see even the temptation with Yahushua or Jesus by Satan in the wilderness. The latter story where he was tempted for 40 days, 40 nights when Moses went up to the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. We see this constant reminder. It's a constant reminder. But people will tell you this is not a religious song. Interesting. That's why I say it's interesting that they say that, and they will fight it tooth and nail. It's not interesting. But I want to show you something. In Job chapter 9, but we're going to look at verse 24. And it tells you, that's why he said, this is all delivered into his hand. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, providing not where and he is. What part are we missing here? What part are we missing here? So we see this is given to the hand of the wicked. So this refers to a battle of conflict. Teeter-totter. Conflict. So the character is Billie Jean, who involved in this. So these giving you the exact details of a conflict. The lyrics is here. You can go download the lyrics. You can see it. And you see where it's referencing 40 days and 40 nights. Same thing I'm saying. You think I'm playing with you. Go get the lyrics yourself. and play this back. As you playing it back, see if I'm reading it word for word. You're going to see it's being read word for word. And it goes on more. It goes on more. It said, she told my baby we dance till 3. Then she looked at me. Then showed a photo. My baby cried. His eyes were like mine. Oh no. We're going to come back to that. We're going to come back to that. I got to come back to that. It says, because we danced on the floor and around. Baby, people always told me, be careful what you do and don't go around breaking young girls' hearts. Reason why I want to come back to that. The baby eyes were like mine. The statement that he's denying, even confirming the paternity and denying this romantic involvement with Billie Jean. The reason I have a problem with that, because he even said earlier, this was a fictional character. Beside the point. So Billie Jean is not his lover. He's not responsible for the child claims that's his. Meaning some works and all this stuff. But about dancing on the floor, around about being cautionary about the advice that he's doing, we need to be careful of the actions meant to be emphasized by this narrator and why it's so important. This wrongdoing and falsely accused. So the kid is not his son. Suggests that he's denying paternity of this child, that he produced this type of work out there. That's what he's denying. He's acknowledging that the woman in question is making claims. I want you to think about what he's saying, making claims about this. But when you see this, Michael Jackson is denying this in question. This woman showed up in a photo and the baby claimed that this child is his. So through his own observation, the baby eyes resembled his own. The baby's understanding resembled his understanding. From this same Billie Jean. Am I talking to myself? Do everybody understand where I'm coming from? Just tell me. I want to know, do everybody understand where I'm coming from? Hopefully everybody do. Hopefully everybody get what I'm saying. Because if the baby eyes resemble his, he's telling you his understanding is just like hers. Wait a minute. Let me tell you a little bit more. It says she came and stood right by me. Just the smell of sweet perfume. This happened much too soon. She called me to her room. Billie Jean is not my lover. Just a girl who claims that I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who claims that I am the one. And he's just constantly saying that. He's constantly denying the fact on who Billie Jean is. What I want people to understand is this. As we finishing up, I want people to always remember one thing. Never forget this. Music that's set can move you. It can sit you at 432. But most music is set at 440 in different hertz to make you move. To give you a pathway to your heart. That's why you can hear certain songs and boom, it'll give you a certain feeling and make you feel a certain way. Don't think they don't know that. They know that because they do that on purpose. They need something to open up your heart to where they can feed it information. That's why that is done. So he mastered this, the power of language. He can give you something with the sounds of a voice and the music he played. And he was able to get away with it. So hopefully you guys learn something, but always watch where you learn and understand how things move. So again, we're going to be having a quick meeting in the back. If you see the link down below at the where we'll be going into Zoom for a minute. And this is everybody, anybody who's planning on attending the baptism. We want you to come back there. So based on that, then we want everybody to come in the back. So other than that, hopefully we will be doing another teaching at KJBU over at King James Bible University. We will be over there. We'll be doing the teaching at 3 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Central time, and 6 o'clock Eastern time. So hopefully that you guys understand that. And then next week we'll kick up with our regular teachings, understandings, and be a little bit more where we're going to be doing a lot of more spiritual teaching, because some people understood that and understood how things move. You need to make sure you clearly understand how things move. So with that, we hope that everybody got some understanding and understand what was going on. So just because people sit there listening to music, people don't think they can be gotten. You just seen you was gotten. And he moved it. And same thing, don't feel bad. He had us all. He had each and every one of us. So with that, I hope that each and every one of you guys learned something. So until next time, I say to everyone, shalom.